Welcome to Sustainability Matters. I'm Tria Case. Today we are hosting a delegation of youth climate change activists. From organizing climate marches to leveraging social media for advocacy, today's youth is proving to be a formidable force for change. They are taking action, demanding accountability, and driving meaningful progress in their communities and beyond. In this episode, we'll shine a spotlight on some remarkable young activists dedicated to creating a better and more sustainable world. Here is a global look at youth activism with Andrew Falzone.
Whoever said kids should be seen and not heard might feel a little overwhelmed by today's youth climate activists who are taking up a cause that directly impacts their future. Perhaps the best known of the young global climate activists is Swedish-born Greta Thunberg. Now 21 years old, Thunberg began a global youth movement at age 15. That's when she began skipping school on Fridays in 9th grade right before the Swedish general election of 2018 to draw attention to the heat waves and wildfires that plagued parts of the country, a movement now known as Fridays for Future. In 2019, Thunberg was invited to the UN's Climate Action Summit, where she gave a most memorable address, or dressing down, to world leaders.
We'll be watching you. This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Thunberg's activism helped coin a term, the Greta effect. She was the youngest person to be named the Time Person of the Year, which happened in 2019, and has multiple nominations for the Nobel Peace Prize. Regardless of age, Thunberg may be the best-known climate activist globally, but there are many other young people taking up the call of climate activism. While many take to the streets around the world, others are taking individual action in their corner of the globe. UNICEF, the United Nations International Emergency Children's Fund, has taken notice of some, like Russell Raymond, who was 17 years old when his native Dominica was ravaged by Hurricane Maria.
As a community, not only in Dominica but around the world, we should put more measures in place to mitigate climate change. I got into photography through the Dominica Youth Environment Organization, and I took that knowledge from the training program and I used it as soon as the storm hit because I wanted to show the world what happened to us after the storm.
Russell has published a photo essay online, a multi-year project documenting the destruction and rehabilitation of his home island. In August 2023, a group of young people ages 5 to 22 won a major ruling in Montana where the state constitution guarantees its residents the right to a clean and healthful environment.
It's not about the government being wrong or these people being evil. It's about changing an unhealthy pattern of behavior that's harming Montana's people.
The activists argued that laws passed in 2011 and then updated in 2023 by Montana's Republican-led state legislature, which prevented the state's agencies from considering climate impacts when permitting fossil fuel projects, was unconstitutional. A major victory for the youth climate justice movement. I'm Andrew Falzone for Sustainability Matters.
Today we are joined by a diverse group of passionate individuals who are at the forefront of the fight for climate justice. Justin Matias Vela is an inspiring 8th grader working with the Brooklyn organization El Puente, known for being at the forefront of social justice initiatives with youth. Nyiesha Mallett is from UPROSE, another Brooklyn-based organization whose mission is focused on climate and community justice. And Alyssa Bueno is representing CUNY for the Climate Justice Hub. The Climate Justice Hub is a collaboration between the New York City Environmental Justice Alliance and CUNY, which works to address climate change through community-driven advocacy and education, emphasizing environmental justice in New York City. UPROSE and El Puente are working with the Hub. Thank you, guys.
Yay.
Welcome, welcome. Justin, let's start with you. So what made you decide to get involved in climate justice?
Well, as a kid, I always liked to draw, and I always liked to make little comics and whatnot. You know, I always liked to draw a little sun in the corner, you know, perfect, beautiful green with whatever color pencil I could find. And also draw myself colonizing Mars, but sadly, that hasn't happened yet. But the green grass, I always wanted to see some beautiful green grass and tall trees and a beautiful sun. And as I got older, I realized that the world really isn't like that. So during school, I decided I wanted to actually, make a change and, do something that could actually affect the environment in a good and positive way. So thanks to El Puente, I found out that I could actually do something and I can actually fight for some change.
Fantastic. And Nyiesha, you've been with UPROSE for 8 years. You started at what, 14?
Yes. I started UPROSE through SYEP, Summer Youth Employment Program. Signed up for Sunset Park area and got involved with UPROSE. And ever since then, I've been with them. So 23 years old now and still holding on.
Amazing. And when you think about climate activism, how do you see that in terms of its connection to other justice issues?
Yeah. When I was 14, one of the first things UPROSE tried to explain to us was that there's this umbrella of problems stemming under social justice issues, and climate change and police brutality and different things kind of fall under this umbrella. So I always say that, a lot of the isms that we're fighting today are in correlation with each other, and in order to fight one, we have to fight all, right? So there's no fighting one without the other, and it's so complex, and we get to live within these complexities and fight these isms together once we understand that intersectionality.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all wrapped up together.
Yeah.
And you're in university, you're in a college setting now. Tell me about how you are seeing climate change be a part of your university experience, and maybe how can universities start to integrate that into the experience at large?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm currently a master's student over at Queens College working with John Waldman on researching sort of the impacts of sea level rise and climate change on tidal marsh birds here in New York State. Our human actions have been kind of changing the environment around us, and we can actually see the impacts on the population levels of different bird species throughout salt marshes here in New York. So specifically when it comes to universities, I think it's really important for universities to back their students, whether that's through organizations, activities, funding student initiatives, providing climate-related courses, providing climate-related language within the curriculum as well, incorporating it as much as possible throughout the university experience. And honestly feel like in our generation, everyone either is impacted or is involved in some way with climate awareness, climate justice, environmental initiatives, because it's something that is in our future, right? So I think that's one way that universities can definitely assist students, is by supporting their initiatives, both academically, but then also tangibly through funding.
Are there particular campaigns or actions that rise to the top for you, and are there lessons that you've learned from them that you'd like to share?
I mean, the one that definitely comes to mind is the New York City Climate Justice Hub, because I've been so a part of it the last year or so. At the Climate Justice Hub, what we're doing is essentially connecting resources, students, faculty, local organizations in partnership, thanks to the Waverly Foundation grant. And so we're able to now be able to connect with each other in ways where before a lot of the resources were often siloed, they were disconnected from each other, and people who were doing great work just weren't able to collaborate well with one another. So that's one of the main priorities of the Climate Justice Hub, along with, carrying out and funding research that local communities are interested in.
Yeah, fantastic. It's an incredible initiative, and we're excited to see where it goes, absolutely. And thank you to everybody that's been a part of supporting that. Justin, are there particular campaigns that have excited you? Is there something that you felt you've taken from what you've been doing that you want to share with others?
Oh yeah, there's this one thing that El Puente is actually trying to do. It's called the BQ Green Project. And basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to like make more parks and actually make the community much more safer than it is already.
Creating spaces that
creating
people
spaces,
can
yeah.
be in, parks and trees, which in turn also help clean our air. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's one that I recently just learned, but I'm already like well interested in it. They also want us to involve the community, not just El Puente, so that's something that I'm really looking forward to, and that's a project that I think everyone should also know, because everyone could also participate in it.
Absolutely. And Nyiesha, how about you? Are there particular UPROSE activities that have been most exciting for you?
Yeah, UPROSE does a lot of different things. One that comes to mind in the summer, we will have climate justice youth gathering, and it will be the largest gathering of young people of color in New York City, and orgs like El Puente would come and sit down for the day and have discussions amongst other youth and talk about climate in the future. But something else that also comes to mind, and it started before I even started working at UPROSE, was the fight for ending the rezoning of Industry City. And it was a long, I think like maybe 6 or 7 year project. And when I came into UPROSE, that was like one of the biggest fights that they were fighting. And I got to see throughout the years just the different implementations of policies and the level of organizing that went into that, and communicating with the community and making sure that they understand the process of what happens when rezoning is happening in their community and how they could speak up, providing testimony training, and going with the community members to testify, and community board 7 meetings. And out of that we got GRID, which is the Green Resiliency Industry District. And then we also got the CLCPA, which is the Climate Leadership Community Protection Act. So a lot of different things just came through that.
Justin, you want to?
I think something that's like that's exciting for me to get involved in is also doing like things like around the school in general, just letting people know, like fun projects. We could do it all around the school from all ages, from 6th to 8th, could also just work together as one big community and just like share out to everyone else. And I think that's like one thing that I really enjoy. I actually met El Puente through one of these projects.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I can speak on the Climate Justice Hub beta launch toolbox that we have going on. So basically, with our website, it is a resource for people, but also we're going to be utilizing it as literally a hub. And so being able to connect faculty who teach climate justice related courses with students who want to take those courses, organizations who would love to partner with those classes as well, is going to be a huge campaign initiative that we are pushing forward nowadays. And in addition, I just wanted to speak a little bit on my interests as well. So I'm in biology. I kind of fell in love with nature because I love wildlife, I love the environment. And one particular thing that I'm excited about is the passing of bird safe legislation here in New York City. So that happened in 2019. It's actually a really big issue because birds colliding with glass is the top 3 reasons for bird population declines across the world. So it's a huge factor for biodiversity loss. And since New York City passed that legislation, I know that certain CUNY campuses are on board with now making their glass safer for birds. So excited about that.
Very important in an urban center for sure. Absolutely. Are there particular activities, again, that you want to highlight that are part of the UPROSE activities, or have you been exposed yet to some of the work that the Hub is working on?
Yeah, I've heard about some of these projects. I think the bird one is super dope. I think something that we're focusing on a lot at UPROSE is just like building youth-based programs and providing youth with a space to learn more about climate activism. Like you said, the terms and the words that we use, and allowing them to sit into meetings like where we're discussing policies and actually understand what's going on. Also building intergenerational community within the space and lead, but being able to do that from a young age, like 14, is super important. And then you grow up and then you can have more conversations.
Are there some particular skill sets or traits that you would want to share with your colleagues or others?
Me personally, I'm an artist. I went to school for art, recently graduated, but ever since I was in UPROSE, one thing we knew was that art was a powerful voice in the movement. As you can see, that art is the way that we are able to vocalize what's going on, and something that like UPROSE is known for the sunflower, right? And the sunflower being pasted everywhere within the movement is beautiful because, you know, sunflowers take a lot of toxins out the earth. So that to be the symbol and for us to carry that around and that to come from art and just looking at our history, art has always been an important part of movements. That is one skill that I know that definitely will take me far. And as an art teacher now, I make sure that my students do projects in which they can talk about these types of things that are going on in the world and be able to express them.
That's a fantastic point, and you know we think a lot about the sciences or the STEM areas of focus when we think about climate and climate science, but being able to communicate and being able to share and visualize the opportunities for change is incredibly important, and it's wonderful to see artists in the mix. And I know, Justin, you said that you head to high school next year, and one of the things you're interested in is?
Actually, I'm interested into digital arts and also like cinema stuff, but mostly into digital arts because like even as a kid, I like to draw, and I would always like to make a comic book, like I said in my introduction. So I hope like one day I could make something that could like show people about like, the climate change and all this activism.
That's fantastic. So let's take a moment. We asked some of our CUNY students what climate issues impact them the most.
My roommates are from PR, and they grew up having like these insane hurricanes happen and, knock out their electricity for like weeks at a time and cause a lot of trauma. And it makes me a little nervous when it comes to planning my future. Like, I know for a fact I would be anxious about starting a family because I don't know if I'd be comfortable bringing a child into this world and not knowing, what would happen to them in the future, what resources would or would not be available by the time, they're 10 or 11 even.
I am taking a global warming course this semester. The labs sort of give us a real glimpse of temperature rise and CO2 emissions in the environment, in the atmosphere. As my class understands that this is an issue, we are young and we understand that like we need to do something about the environment. We need to protest. We need to be out there and actually care and fight.
Young voices getting the word out about climate change is important because when you see other young people being as passionate and active about climate change, then it motivates you.
I'm concerned about broader impact, such as the plastic industry's impact on climate change. I would like to clean up oceans and planting trees.
I try to do what I can on a personal level, which is just like small things. Like my roommates and I, we compost. We try to not have as much food waste. We don't use single plastics.
Everybody should have an understanding of who they're voting for and who's running for a ballot, and especially when it comes to the climate.
Do you all feel that youth have a strong enough voice in our future? And what do you think we can do to help people to get more involved? Maybe Justin, you want to?
I feel like youth does have a lot of voice in our future, because then again, we are the future, so we are the voice. We could use social media as a form of art or as a form of information, and we could all like work together to like make something and just share it to the world and not just our community.
For sure. Just thinking about, I don't know about you, but I feel like we're all Gen Zs here, and we had just a different access to the internet than our ancestors or those who came before us had. And I think that has led to our outspokenness on a lot of these topics, but also just like how much information that we're consuming. So I think it's just important that we keep a level head and that we understand that this is a grassroots fight. So it's important to have those conversations with our elders so that we continue to learn from each other and grow in that aspect, and then put our actions into flourishing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would agree with the two of them. I think youth definitely has a voice where this generation, a lot of us are coming into age, either being able to vote in the workforce, having a voice in many aspects of our lives, and I would agree as well that social media and the digital age has a lot to do with that, because we can't really accomplish anything on our own on the individual level, but when we band together and mobilize, we're able to accomplish so much more. So I think the benefit of being able to connect with everyone through our phones, through the internet, making art, having our voice heard, it's so powerful, and we can really accomplish change in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. What advice would you give to people about how to get involved if they're passionate but they're just not sure where to start?
For sure. One, if you want to just get into working with an organization, find an organizational home. If you're in New York, look into SYEP. You might be able to find some organizations. I believe Puente might be with SYEP too, right? So these organizations that we're with, they provide summer opportunities for people to get involved and then stay with them throughout the year. Personally, I will advise everyone to just start building a personal connection with the land, the earth, the ground, however you want to connect to it, right? I realized when we started growing vegetables and fruits at UPROSE through New York Grows, I realized that I didn't know how these things grew. I didn't know what it looked like, and just getting more involved with actually touching the soil and just like that personal connection will tell us a lot about what we need from the earth, but also that the earth provides everything that we need, right? And that it doesn't make sense to commodify natural resources, right? So just, getting into that basic connection with the land.
I was lucky enough to actually have a school that actually gave me this opportunity. But even if the people that are inspired but their school doesn't have one, they could have other people that are just as passionate join them in a movement that they make, either in person or online. And even if it starts off small, it's okay, because everything needs time. Even trees need time to grow, and so will our actions.
You're getting your master's degree and you're finding time to participate in the hub. What made you decide to take time to do this, and how would you recommend other college students or master's students get involved?
Absolutely. So I'll take a step back and explain why I decided to join. I have always been interested in science, have always been interested in the way things work, and I think what the New York City Climate Justice Hub offers is sort of an avenue to then take that knowledge and take that information, be able to work on the ground and see what can happen when you collaborate with people. So I was really excited to be a part of this really forefront change and bringing CUNY and local partnerships together to accomplish great things. In regards to your question as to how people can get involved, especially students, I think reaching out to your professors is definitely a really big one. You would be surprised the amount of professors that they don't just teach, they're also activists, they're also researchers, they are involved in a lot of different activism and nonprofit organizations that do amazing work that are related to their field. So if you have a particular professor that you love or you have a class that you love, definitely take the time to, even if it's not in your comfort zone, go out of your comfort zone and reach out, because you never know what that connection can bring. Secondly, I think it was mentioned before, but take advantage of student resources, right? There's so many different communities. You can join an art club, you can join a climate justice club, environmental science, biology, there's everything. You can start your own, there's so much that you can do to nurture your interests and be able to accomplish really cool things at the same time.
Fantastic. You three are inspirations, and it is incredible to be able to talk with the three of you. As somebody who works on sustainability every day, I am inspired to see three young people dedicated and doing what you're doing. So thank you for that, and thank you for coming today and spending this time with us in studio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please keep the conversation going and follow us or send us a message on social media. We leave you with a section of a powerful poem by Amanda Gorman called Earthrise. This was produced by the Climate Reality Project. Thank you for watching, and tune in next month when we'll discuss our food ecosystem.
On Christmas Eve, 1968, astronaut Bill Anders snapped a photo of the Earth as Apollo 8 orbited the moon. Those three guys were surprised to see from their eyes what a planet looked like an Earthrise, a blue orb hovering over the moon's gray horizon with deep oceans and silver skies. It was our world's first glance at itself, our first chance to see a shared reality, a declared stance, and a commonality, a glimpse into our planet's mirror. And as threats drew nearer, our own urgency became clearer as we realized that we hold nothing dearer than this floating body we all call home. We've known that we're caught in the throes of climactic changes some say will just go away, while some simply pray to survive another day. For it is the obscure, the oppressed, the poor who, when the disaster is declared done, still suffer more than anyone. Climate change is the single greatest challenge of our time. Of this, you're certainly aware. It's saddening, but I cannot spare you from knowing an inconvenient fact, because it's getting the facts straight that gets us to act and not to wait. So I tell you this not to scare you, but to prepare you, to dare you to dream a different reality where, despite disparities, we all care to protect this world, this riddled blue marvel, this little true marvel, to master the verve and the nerve to see how we can serve our planet. You don't need to be a politician to make it your mission to conserve, to protect, to preserve that one and only home that is ours. To use your unique power to give next generations the planet they deserve. We are demonstrating, creating, advocating. We heed this inconvenient truth because we need to be anything but lenient with the future of our youth. And while this is a training in sustaining the future of our planet, there is no rehearsal. The time is now, because the reversal of harm and protection of a future so universal should be anything but controversial. So, Earth, pale blue dots, we will fail you not. Just as we chose to go to the moon, we know it's never too soon to choose hope. We choose to do more than cope with climate change. We choose to end it. We refuse to lose. We do this and more, not because it's very easy or nice, but because it is necessary.